UFC 259, Blachowicz versus Adesanya is finally upon us, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, and what an amazing card this is as well. This might be the greatest pay-per-view I've ever set my eyes on, and it definitely is the greatest pay-per-view of the year, and I'm going to start with the early prelim opener of Mario Batista versus Trevin Jones. Great fight to kick off the card, and I'm not joking, you guys, when I say this. This is the kind of fight that would be on the main card of the previous pay-per-views we've had this year. Now it's on the early prelims of this one. Great card, Mario Batista versus Trevin Jones. Both guys coming off big wins. I know that Trevin Jones is technically coming off a no contest, but we know what we saw. He TKO'd Timo Valiev in his last bout in the second round, but we also know what we saw, and that was Timo Valiev completely dismantling him start to finish in that bout until he got clipped in that second round. Some say fluke, some say comeback win. Maybe Trevin Jones found the right shot at the right moment and we should give him full credit, but I know that I watched Timo Valiev dismantle him start to finish in that bout. Round one was an absolute massacre. It could have been stopped multiple times in favour of Timo Valiev over Trevin Jones in that bout, and it almost looked like Timo Valiev was out there and was just realising, wait a minute, this is the easiest fight I've ever had in my life. I'm just going to have fun out there. Paid the ultimate price by getting a little bit too relaxed in the second round. Trevin Jones catches him on the chin. He's got good power. He's lost a lot of times in his career against some not so good competition as well. Some bad recorded competition here and there. I've got some wins over him, and recently as well in 2018. Mario Batista's only loss in his career is to Corey Sandhagen. Got armbarred in the first round of that bout. I don't see Trevin Jones submitting Mario Batista in the first round. I don't see him doing too much to Mario Batista. I'm going to be picking Mario Batista to go out there and get a job done by unanimous decision. Maybe because it's on short notice, Trevin Jones could mount some kind of comeback in the third round and secure a win. But I'm going to say overall, Mario Batista goes out there and gets the job done. 29-28, unanimous decision. I think it's going to be a good fight, but Mario Batista's just way better than Trevin Jones overall. Got a big win in his last bout against Miles Johns, and Miles Johns bounced back immediately against Kevin Natividad and got an uppercut KO, which was brutal. Mario Batista's wins are looking good over time. Now, I know Trevin Jones's win over Timo Valiev bounced back as well. I just know that Mario Batista's way better technically than Trevin Jones by watching both of them. He's a good underdog, I guess, but the odds aren't too amazing for Trevin Jones, so I'm definitely going to go with Mario Batista getting the job done by unanimous decision. I don't see a finish happening. At least we saw that Trevin Jones is really, really tough against Timo Valiev to take all that punishment in the first round. I don't see Mario Batista going out there and finishing him in a way that Timo Valiev could not, but I do see him being a little bit more patient than Valiev, knowing that Trevin Jones has that power to change things immediately and getting the job done by unanimous decision. Plus, he's younger as well, and I think he gets the job done. Moving on up the card, Uros Medic versus Aylon Cruz. Finally, we get to see the debut of Uros Medic. I was watching him on the Contender Series. I watched that Contender Series live, I believe, as well. Those body kicks are so vicious. Everything about Uros Medic is vicious in general. Aylon Cruz is not a bad dog here, in my opinion. I think he's a very dangerous fighter. I know he got finished by Spike Carlisle early, but he's beat some decent opponents in his career, including one on the Contender Series. Lost some other fights before that as well, but beat the guy on the Contender Series who was 6-0 at the time, Nguyen. Got the job done in the third round by flying knee. It was an amazing performance. He showed he had good cardio. Maybe if he gets into the later rounds here against Uros Medic, he can start to do something to him, but I feel like Uros Medic is just going to be all over him in the stand-up department, and I haven't seen enough great grappling out of Aylon Cruz yet in his career to tell me that he might go out there and do something in the grappling department to Uros Medic, and even if he does go out there and try and grapple with Uros Medic, who's such a great striker. Uros has 2 submissions by triangle off of his back in his career so far, and they weren't fluky triangles. They really weren't. Like on one of them, he put the guy in a triangle, the guy got out of the triangle, and then he went back to the guard of Uros Medic, and he put him right back in another triangle, cinched up. He's got a dangerous ground game off his back. I feel like him taking a little bit of time off after the Contender Series performance was good for him. Went over at King's MMA, got some training done there. I've seen all his pictures with Marvin Vettori, doing some good training. He's a massive guy for the lightweight division as well. So is Aylon Cruz. They're both massive for the division. Uros Medic is listed at 6'1". That's ridiculous. He has a bit of a reach disadvantage here, but I think it's all going to be down to the legs rather than the hands. Got dangerous hands, but those body kicks, I think, are going to land early and often on Aylon Cruz. And I think Aylon Cruz is going to be unused to fighting someone his size and his height, because he's used to taking on guys much smaller than him. And I think Uros Medic is going to go out there, land a bunch of leg kicks, land a bunch of body kicks. I think Aylon Cruz, who has been losing earlier in his fights before in the early rounds, he's not going to be able to make the same comeback in the later rounds that he normally does against a guy in Uros Medic who invests so much early with his shots to the body and to the legs. Those body kicks, you can't deny him. He's an amazing fighter. Great kickboxing background as well. Younger guy. Took some time off after his Contender Series bout to improve his game. I think he took the right amount of time off. I'm glad he didn't rush things in his career. And I think he will get the job done over Aylon Cruz, who's coming off a KO loss right now despite Carlisle. And Carlisle since lost 2 in a row and got cut by the UFC. I am going to go with Uros Medic here getting it done. However, Cruz is a dangerous fighter here. I'm not overlooking him because Uros Medic has fought some good guys, but his last bout against that Hernandez guy on the Contender Series, that guy had such a padded record, and he did look like he kind of quit in there as well. However, I'm sure I would quit if I got kicked in the ribs by a shot like that to the body. Uros Medic gets it done in my opinion. TKO in the second or first round. I'll say late first round TKO for Uros Medic after some vicious body kicks. Gets the job done in the first round, very similar to Spike Carlisle. Starts off quick, starts off fast, and gets it done early at the end of the first round by TKO. Uros Medic. Moving on up the card, Livia Renata Souza versus Amanda Lemos. Now, this is my first underdog of the card. I'm picking Livia Renata Souza. She's got more experience. She's younger. She beat a better last opponent in my opinion as well. She's looking a little bit better each fight. I think she goes out there and gets the job done. She's beaten better competition throughout her career overall. I mean, Amanda Lemos, other than her past few fights that she's had, really hasn't fought anyone that good whatsoever, and no good records on her resume at all. And Livia Renata Souza is an underdog here. I think that is great value. I think I'm going to pick her as an underdog here, and I think I'll take it by decision because this is female MMA, and I think she will get the job done by decision as an underdog. As I said before, more experience. There's not really much technically to break down here because, as I said before, neither of them are that crazily good, in all honesty. But Ashley Yoder's had some close fights in her career. Had a close fight with Angela Hill. Went to a split decision with Mackenzie Dern as well at women's strawweight. I think Livia Renata Souza is just going to win this bout. More experience. Younger girl as well, a little bit more promise in her career so far. Amanda Lemos is 33 years of age, sort of coming to the tail end of her career in my opinion. Looking good in her last few fights, don't get me wrong, but I think Livia Renata Souza gets this one done by unanimous decision, 29-28 or 30-27. It's going to be competitive because they always are, but I think the value here as an underdog is definitely on Livia Renata Souza. Everything I would look at to predict a fight is in her favour, and she's the underdog, so I'm definitely going to be picking her to get the job done. Moving on up the card, Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. I'm picking Sean Brady. I like Jake Matthews. I think he's a great underdog here as well. Listen, these are some close fights. I know there's some good contenders on these cards, but these are some really, really close fights. Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews is a great one. I like Jake Matthews. I did not like his last performance against Diego Sanchez. Don't get me wrong, he beat Diego Sanchez as he should have, but you were given Diego Sanchez. Jake Matthews, young contender. You were given Diego Sanchez. Destroy him. Please, don't go to a decision and not finish him and barely do any damage in the third round after knocking him down. I beg of you, destroy him. It's Diego Sanchez. If Sean Brady got given Diego Sanchez, I think it would be murder, in all honesty. Sean Brady's a dangerous man, undefeated. Paul Felder's been talking about him for ages now on the commentary about how strong he is and how he ragdolls Paul Felder in the gym. He's had some great fights so far. The Court McGee fight in his debut, little bit weird, started off a little bit gun-ho, dropped him in the first round, had a close moment in the third round with Court McGee, but secured the second round as well by landing the bigger shots. Since then, he's been pacing himself a lot better in his bouts. I think he looked great against Ismail Nurdiev and showed that he sort of fixed that cardio problem that he showed against Court McGee by coming back in the second and third round against Ismail Nurdiev. And in his last bout against Christian Aguilera, he completely dominated him start to finish, landed good shots on the feet, took some good shots as well. He's got a great chin, undefeated, had some great grappling, got a one-armed guillotine in that bout as well. Jake Matthews is dangerous. I just haven't seen him really put that performance on that Sean Brady just did in his last one against a guy in Diego Sanchez that he should have put that performance on against a guy in Emil Meek that he should have put that performance against. Don't get me wrong, Emil Meek is good, but Jake Matthews, it was very close, and you won that fight based on a knockdown in one of those rounds. You got a couple of takedowns as well to secure yourself the win. Jake Matthews has got himself a couple of takedowns in certain fights to secure himself the win before. I don't think he's going to have that option here against Sean Brady's grappling. I think Brady's going to be the much better grappler, take down Jake Matthews himself, and win the exchanges on the feet. I just need to see a guy in Jake Matthews who either has unrelenting cardio in the later rounds that's crazy, or has some vicious power that he could catch Sean Brady with on the feet early. I don't see those two factors. I think I'm going to go with Sean Brady being overall the more well-rounded fighter, having the option to take it to the ground. Don't think Jake Matthews is going to have an option to take down Sean Brady. I think Brady wins the grappling exchanges, wins the stand-up exchanges as well, and will win a close fight, though, competitively. 29-28, unanimous decision. I could actually see Jake Matthews coming back and winning the third round. I think Brady wins it 29-28, being a more well-rounded guy. Moving on up the card, Kenney Nzechukwu versus Carlos Ulberg. Nzechukwu won his last fight from being kicked in the groin by Darko the Nutcracker Stozic. Let's just say it how it is. He's not very good. Carlos Ulberg is very good. He's got a 5-0 record, even though on some lists it says he's 3-0. So it's only a $4 billion company, as we all know. Not going to get a record correct, are we? That's how it works. Carlos Ulberg, though, very dangerous from City Kickboxing. Great stand-up, has a kickboxing background as well. 30 years of age, in his prime right now, athletically, I would argue. Great fighter in general, had a great win on the Contender Series, and that was a big jump up in competition as well. The guy had a pretty good record on the Contender Series that he took on, and had a really great performance against him by first round TKO on the Contender Series. And Kenney Nzechukwu just hasn't looked too great in his previous bouts, and hasn't really shown me anything that tells me he's going to go out there and outstrike a guy like Carlos Ulberg, and also hasn't showed me any kind of offensive grappling in his game whatsoever. I mean, maybe if I saw Nzechukwu shoot some takedowns and get guys down with some great grappling, I'd maybe pick him as an underdog here against Carlos Ulberg. But other than losing, Paul Craig lost a couple of positions and ended up on bottom against Kenney Nzechukwu. Eventually got the finish there, which is the only one of Kennedy's career. Other than that, it's going to be a stand-up bout between Carlos Ulberg and Kenney Nzechukwu. I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg catching him in the first round because Nzechukwu just doesn't look that good of a fighter. I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg getting it done. First round TKO. The CKB hype will live on. Moving on up the card, Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza. Looking forward to this one as well. I'm picking Tim Elliott here. Evens on odds. I think he's way better than Jordan Espinoza. He's fought much better competition in his last few bouts. He's lost to much better competition. You don't see Tim Elliott getting just completely dismantled by the guys that Jordan Espinoza is getting beaten by. You see Tim Elliott losing to the guys like Davis and Figueiredo. And by the way, he was doing quite well against Davison in that first round before getting caught in that guillotine. But then again, Figueiredo tends to catch people out of nowhere with those guillotines. Got the job done against Tim Elliott. Same with Brandon Royval. Tim Elliott looking really good in the grappling exchanges, winning those early moments against a guy in Brandon Royval who's a great contender, had a real good fun scrap with Brandon Moreno while it lasted before that injury to his arm. I think Tim Elliott's a way better fighter, had a good fight with Askarov. I know he clearly lost, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see the same kind of grit and toughness in Jordan Espinoza. He seems to be quite content to scoot around the outside and just lose. In all honesty, yeah, it does seem that way in all honesty. Like Tim Elliott, at least when I see him lose a fight, he's gritting down, saying, come on, bring it on, trying to put the pressure on Askarov, taking a bunch of punches, don't get me wrong, but it's that grit and heart to show that he still wants it. Jordan Espinoza, when he's losing fights, is skirting around the outside, doing absolutely nothing. Both guys have beat Mark De La Rosa. That's the only real common opponent they have, but I feel like Tim Elliott's just fought better competition, looks better in general, has more grit and heart, and I think he will go for some takedowns here early, trying to get Espinoza against the cage. I think he's going to work a clinch game as well because Espinoza kind of puts himself against the cage. In all honesty, I think Tim Elliott goes out there, gets the job done with pressure, relentless volume, eventually getting to Jordan Espinoza winning the second and third round after losing the first one. 29-28, unanimous decision to Tim Elliott. Moving on to the prelims, Rogerio Bontorin versus Kai Kara France. Great matchup. I'm picking Kai Kara France. I'm going with another CKB member here. I think they'll keep the torch burning for the eventual main event, and we'll get to that in a second. But Rogerio Bontorin versus Kai Kara France, great fight so far. It all really relies on how good Kai Kara France's takedown defense is, and I think Kai Kara France's takedown defense is really good. 90% in the UFC. Only one guy, I believe, has ever been able to get him down, and he stuffs a lot of takedowns in the UFC. It's not like no one's trying. People are trying to actively get Kara France to the ground. Maybe not the same level of grappler as Rogerio Bontorin is, but still, showing that previous history of being able to stuff those takedowns, 90% takedown defense, and he's had a couple of fights in the UFC, and he's had a lot of octagon time as well. Rogerio Bontorin really got ragdolled by Ray Borg, and even the Howley and Pava win that he has, which is arguably his best win in his career, was due to a cut from a knee, and Howley and Pava was doing okay in that bout, and I know he got taken down, but Howley and Pava was working his way back up. In those situations, Howley and Pava showed that he was able to escape the takedowns of Rogerio Bontorin early, working his way back to the top. He also cut open Rogerio Bontorin in that bout as well. They stopped the fight when Howley and Pava got cut. It was a very bad cut on the eye anyway, but one of those situations where it's like, I'd like to have seen this one go to a decision to see what would really happen. Bontorin does slow down quite a bit in his career. Kai Kara-France got a bit of a reach advantage here as well. 2 inches, that's a lot to work with in the flyweight division. Also, he's a shorter guy than Rogerio Bontorin, so he's going to be hard to get under to get those takedowns. Got a strong takedown defense game, and I honestly feel like Rogerio Bontorin's going to get cracked early in the first round here, much like Kara-France did to Brandon Royval. However, other than Brandon Royval, and unlike Brandon Royval, Bontorin is not going to be able to survive being knocked down early, and I think he will get KO'd in the first round, rushing in after failing a couple of takedowns. He'll get a little bit over-aggressive, a little bit frustrated with not being able to work his grappling game, and then Kai Kara-France will catch him straight on the chin. Kara-France, very experienced, still the younger guy here, 27 years of age. I know he's taken some damage in his career, but I think he'll bounce back here against Rogerio Bontorin by being able to stuff the takedowns and catch a sloppy Bontorin on the feet, rushing in, looking for big shots. Kara-France catches him moving backwards with a big counter hook over the top. Bontorin goes down in the first round by TKO. Beaten some good opponents, both of them, though. Kara-France has been around the game for a very long time. Bontorin's beaten some great contenders. He had a split decision against a guy. I think it was Bibulatov. I thought he kind of lost that fight to Bibulatov, in all honesty, but still, Kai Kara-France I think he gets the job done here by first round TKO. Moving on up the card, Joseph Benavidez versus Askar Askarov. Oh my god, 3 flyweight bouts in a row. This is crazy. I feel like Askar Askarov wins this one, okay? I like Joseph Benavidez, but let's just say it how it is. That last one was a career ender. That should have been the sign to Joseph Benavidez, you're done. You're done here. You can't take it anymore. It was murder. I can't physically bring myself to pick someone after watching that happen to him. You know? Like, at least McGregor gets clipped by Poirier in the second and goes down. Like, Benavidez versus Figueiredo 2. I've always said this. Is one of the most savage performances I've ever seen in my life from Figueiredo. I actually thought at one point in the bout, at the end of it when he was getting rear naked choked, that we had witnessed the first death in the octagon of Joseph Benavidez. It was an absolute mangling, mauling. I think he's coming back purely for ego, and he has said that as well. He only wants to come back so he doesn't go out looking like that. He wants to go out with a win. It's not like he's still chasing a championship, but still, if I was Benavidez, I'd stick around after this one if he does get a win, because if Moreno gets the job done against Figueiredo in a rematch, which is now signed, by the way, he might get a shot against Moreno. I mean, maybe if Figueiredo wins, he might call it a day and retire. But still, I think Benavidez should think about things after this fight, whether or not he wants to give it one more shot, because I'm sure they would do Moreno versus Benavidez if they wanted to. Askar Askarov, 12-0, undefeated, dangerous guy, puts the pressure on. If he didn't have such a strong grappling base, I might hedge a bit on Benavidez being able to expose the young striker coming up that's never seen a great grappler at flyweight before. But the fact that Askar Askarov has that great grappling base and can push a pace in the fights, I think there's not really anywhere that Benavidez can expose him. And I think it's going to be a close, competitive bout. But Askarov's shots are just going to have a little bit more of an effect on Benavidez than Benavidez's shots are going to have on Askarov. And I think Askarov's going to get the job done by unanimous decision, 29-28. Maybe losing the first round, but eventually getting to Benavidez with his grinding style and pressure, winning the last 2 rounds of the bout. I think Benavidez's time is done. And I think Figueiredo genuinely took his soul. And that's the truth. Moving on up the card, Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips in the bantamweight division. Great matchup again. I pray to God, touch wood, that this card stays together. This is amazing. Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips. Great bout. I'm picking Song Yadong. A lot of people don't like Song Yadong. They feel like he's kind of been pandered to by the UFC. He got a draw against Cody Stamann, but he won the second round of that bout. And I know he didn't win the first round of that fight, which is arguably what the fight came down to. I thought Cody Stamann should have won that bout, winning the first round because of the point deduction, and I thought he won the first round in general anyway. And He won the third round of that bout. The only round that Song Yadong won was the second. I feel like Song Yadong's actually pretty good. He's got great takedown defense. He's got great stand-up as well. He's got good KO power. He's still 23 years of age. And don't get me wrong, Kyler Phillips is also a good fighter. But who has he beaten? No one. Cameron Else is literally anti-British propaganda in the UFC. We have great bantamweights. Jack Cartwright. I'll shout him out in this video. We have Jack Cartwright, undefeated monster in Cage Warriors right now. Okay? He's dangerous. They bring in Cameron Else, some absolute bum, because he trains at Jackson Wink. He's beat absolutely nobody in his career, and every good opponent that he's ever fought has beaten him. I know that Kyler Phillips looked really good against him, and his nickname's Matrix, and he's a cool personality. He had a great fight against Gabriel Silva as well, pushed a good pace there. He's lost some fights in his career, or one of them to Victor Henry, 14-4 guy. Split decision, arguably maybe could have won that one. One judge thought he did. I do believe that Song Yadong is just going to be way more battle-tested, training a lot better. I think he's a much better fighter in general. He's more proven against good contenders, because a lot of people do this. Whenever they see someone lose, regardless of the performance that the person had, the fact that they lost means that they can't hang. That's a problem to me. He lost to Cody Stamann even though it was a draw. He should have lost that bout. However, he showed me that he can defend takedowns against Cody Stamann and really do well against him, enough to win a round against a ranked contender in Cody Stamann. Also against his last fight, Marlon Vera. Sorry, why am I forgetting his name? A lot of people thought that Marlon Vera won. I thought that Marlon Vera won that fight in the second and third round as well. However, Yadong outlanded him, made it very close. It was not a sign that Yadong is done at all. It was not a sign of anything. He actually won the fight eventually with the judges' scorecards. However, I think that Song Yadong can still hang with ranked contenders in the bantamweight division. I don't know where Kyler Phillips can hang. It's sort of an unknown versus a kind of known. And I'm going to go with Song Yadong because Kyler Phillips isn't that big of an underdog. I'm going to go with Song Yadong getting the job done by unanimous decision, winning the first two rounds, I'd say. Maybe Kyler Phillips mount to come back in the third, so I'll say 29-28. Song Yadong. Phillips pushes a good pace, so I'll pick him to come back in the third round and win that one. But I think the first two rounds are going to comfortably go to Song Yadong here. Moving on up the card to another fight on the card. Dominick Cruz versus Casey Kenney, again at bantamweight. Jesus. I feel like we're in the chocolate factory right now, all these guys in a row. Dominick Cruz versus Casey Kenney, another bantamweight bout. I'm going with Dominick Cruz, man. I am. Over Casey Kenney. This is another underdog that I'm picking on the card. I don't think he should be an underdog. I think there should be dead evens. He is actually evens in odds, but Casey Kenney's a slight favourite, and I think that line will grow in Kenny's favour. Kenny's lost some fights, and he's made them really close against certain levels of competition. I thought he lost his last bout to Nathaniel Wood as well, very, very clearly, in the second and third round, and could have maybe lost the first round as well. I like Dominick Cruz here. I think a lot of people are judging him based on the performance he had against, at the time, the greatest bantamweight in the world, Henry Cejudo, after beating Marlon Moraes the way he did. I know Marlon Moraes has kind of slipped a little bit now after that TKO loss, but Henry Cejudo started the landslide of Moraes' career. Dominick Cruz is a dangerous guy. He's had a full camp for this one as well, which I like, because again, people were judging him off the Cejudo performance. He had that on, like, what, 6 days notice? Had to cut the weight, had to do everything. Lucky he was in shape, kind of. He didn't look in that great of shape. I'm interested to see what kind of shape he looks in, so maybe on the weigh-ins I'll try, maybe at the weigh-ins I'll change my mind, but I feel like Dominick Cruz on a full camp hand-selected Casey Kenney because he sees a style he can beat in his old age. I don't know if he wants to take this one just to get a win before he retires, or maybe just to get a win so he can have some call-out power, because I'll tell you this, if Dominick Cruz goes out there and beats Casey Kenney and calls out TJ Dillashaw for a rematch, they're making that fight, maybe. You know what I mean? If he goes out there, beats Casey Kenney impressively, calls out Cody Garbrandt, top 5 guy right now in the UFC for a rematch, they might make that fight. Calls out Jose Aldo, they might make that fight. Dominick Cruz is a really big name. I don't know what he's doing with this bout, but I think I know why he picked it. It's because he thinks he can win. He could have had a Sunsao, he could have had Moraes, he could have had other guys coming off a loss on the bantamweight division. I think he gets the job done against Casey Kenney here by unanimous decision, 30-27. Casey Kenney's dangerous, but like, I don't care what you look like against Hilai Alateng. I really don't care what you look like against Hilai Alateng. Dominick Cruz looked good against Cody Garbrandt. Garbrandt is still a top 5 contender in the bantamweight division. And before you tell me that, no, he didn't look good against Cody Garbrandt, lol, guru, timestamp this moment, looks good against Cody Garbrandt in quotation marks, lol, what is this guy, calls himself the MMA guru. Cruz outlanded him every single round, got lost. He lost the fight based on off-balance knockdowns and a couple of real knockdowns as well. But other than that, he was outstriking Cody Garbrandt. I know a lot of people see Garbrandt dancing around and act like that's really good, but Cruz was doing great in that bout. Looked good against Cejudo as well. Second round before he got clipped with that knee by Cejudo, and it was a bit of a weird stoppage. I think it was a good stoppage if it was just a regular fight, but the fact that it was a championship bout and there was so much on the line for Cruz to come back and solidify himself as the GOAT of bantamweight, I feel like he did okay against Cejudo in the second round. He did okay in the first round as well. He did very good in the first round against Cejudo. Very good in the second round before he got clipped with that knee. I had him winning the second round before he got clipped with that knee. And I think Dominick Cruz is going to go out there, slow the fight down for Casey Kenney. And I think he's going to get the job done by unanimous decision, 30-27. He's a big guy for the division as well. I think people forget that every single time he gets to a weigh-in. And Casey Kenney isn't the biggest guy of the bantamweight division. Cruz is going to have a bit of a size advantage. Wouldn't be surprised if Cruz gets some flash takedowns in this bout as well, because as much as Kenney is a good grappler, judo background, he got taken down a bunch of times by Merab. I think Cruz is equal level grappling to Merab, I think we can assume. I'm going to go with Dominick Cruz. I think the only reason he's a dog in this bout is because people were saying, I don't know if he's still got it, but like, you're judging him off of a performance when he fought on 6 days notice and came off the commentary team to get the fight with Cejudo. It might not have been a 6-day notice thing. It might have been under 2 weeks or something like that, but it was definitely under 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to seeing what a real Dominick Cruz on a full camp looks like, and I think he gets the job done over Casey Kenney, who didn't win his last bout against Nathaniel Wood. I'm sorry, I watched it happen. I don't think Nathaniel Wood's going to be a champion. And I think Cruz is championship level. And I think he'll go out there and school Casey Kenney for 3 rounds, make him a little bit emotional and get the job done. Cruz gets it done by unanimous decision, 30-27. Moving on up the card to the main card. Thiago Santos versus Aleksandar Rakic. Oh my God, this card. This card is so good. I'm going to go with Aleksandar Rakic. I like Thiago Santos. You've got no ligaments in your legs, and Rakic has the best leg kicks I've ever seen. Not ever seen. I'm sorry, I've been saying that quite a bit recently. Rakic has some of the most dangerous leg kicks I've seen. Okay, he has some of the most. They're very dangerous leg kicks. They can really cripple a fighter after about 5 of them. We saw that against Anthony Smith. He landed a couple good leg kicks, then it was just that one extra, and all of a sudden Smith could not literally stand in that octagon. Rakic dominates him on top for the rest of that fight. I'm glad that we saw that Rakic has an alternative to just his striking game, because I think if he went out there against Ozdemir and shot a couple of takedowns against him, that would have been a much clearer win, and that's the only real loss of his career other than the first one of his career whatsoever, where he went out there and shot a takedown against a jiu-jitsu guy because he had no idea what he was doing in MMA. Other than that, he's only had one real loss to Volkan Ozdemir, and that wasn't a loss because I thought Rakic won rounds 1 and 2 of that bout and sort of took off round 3 with a bit of a problem with his own leg and shin with a little bit of a hematoma on it, but won the first 2 rounds of his fight with Volkan Ozdemir. Thiago Santos is dangerous. I just don't think he's going to catch Rakic on the chin. I think Rakic ain't going to play that game. He knows that he doesn't have to be a crowd pleaser, and I think that's a very beneficial thing to have. In all honesty, if Rakic went out there and wanted to please a crowd and go out there and trade bombs, and he was a big KO guy coming up, maybe I'd entertain a pick with Thiago Santos. He does not care about entertaining people. He will go out there and win whatever way he wants to, and I think he'll chop apart the no ligaments of Santos's legs. Getting a little bit older as well now, Thiago Santos. He's not a spring chicken in this light heavyweight division. Aleksandar Rakic is. I think those leg kicks are going to be a huge problem early for Santos, inhibiting that movement that makes him so good, stopping that forward pressure as well, and I don't think his non-ligamented leg is going to be able to take the shots of Rakic, and I don't think that he's going to be able to catch Rakic either. I know that Devin Clark caught Rakic, but Rakic has improved massively since then in his octagon IQ and his stand-up ability. Santos is a dangerous underdog, I understand. Just watching Teixeira take him down, Rakic has a chance of taking him down. Did what Teixeira did to Anthony Smith, you can argue that. And I'd argue Rakic did much better against Anthony Smith than Teixeira did, by far. Teixeira lost the first round to Anthony Smith. Won a couple of grappling exchanges later on in the bout, but Smith was scrambling. Rakic did not let Smith do anything in that bout on the ground, and just stayed on top of him, landing total strikes, keeping busy on the ground, staying out of submissions, landing good shots on the feet as well. Now, Santos is very dangerous on the feet. I just don't see him being able to keep up after those leg kicks from Rakic early, and I think Rakic is going to go straight to those leg kicks. Santos is dangerous, but he wasn't able to KO Jimmy Manuwa clean. I know he got the job done in the second round against Jimmy Manuwa. Jimmy Manuwa literally has no chin. There's nothing there stopping him from being KO'd. And Santos made it sloppy and made it scrappy. And Manoa cracked Santos back in those exchanges, whilst rocked and semi-conscious against the cage, caught Santos back and rocked him, and had him in some trouble in that fight as well. I think Rakic is going to go out there, be too educated, use his footwork, and show us the rise of the new genre, or not the new genre, the new era of the light heavyweight division, the new wave of talents. You've got Jiri Prochazka coming up soon as well. You've got a bunch of other light heavyweights. Jimmy Crute is on the come up. Magomed Ankalaev is on the card. That may have happened by the time you're watching this. It may not have happened by the time you're watching this, depending on when you're watching it. I think Rakic is going to lead the way for the new light heavyweights and get the job done over Thiago Santos by unanimous decision, chopping at his legs, landing some good shots on the feet, and then maybe even settling on the ground against Santos as well, because as much as people say that Rakic is chinny, Santos got KO'd by Branch. He's not got an iron chin himself. And I know that Jones poked at his legs for 3 rounds and made him look a little bit better than he is, in my opinion. I think Rakic goes out there and gets the job done pretty comfortably by 30-27, unanimous decision. Good action-packed moments at the starts of the round. Ends of the round are going to be with Rakic on top, landing those total strikes. He's shown that he can do that in his career now, and I like that he can fall back on that if Santos starts swinging a little bit heavy. He can go for those double legs. I'm going to go with Aleksandar Rakic by unanimous decision, 30-27. Moving on up the card, Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. It just keeps getting better and better. I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev here. I just am. I like Drew Dober. I've picked against Makhachev before. I realised that Makhachev is a great fighter. Like, when he first fought Arman Tsarukyan coming into the UFC, I worried about him because I picked Arman Tsarukyan in that fight. If you don't know, I saw Arman Tsarukyan coming up. I thought, this guy's a very dangerous guy. Massive underdog here against Islam Makhachev. I think he goes out there and gets it done. It was such a close fight with Islam Makhachev. If Tsarukyan went on to lose in the UFC, to have some trouble, I would worry. But Tsarukyan's moved on and became a savage in the UFC in his own right, and might be next to get a ranking slot himself. Islam Makhachev's a dangerous guy. Took on Arman Tsarukyan, beat him. He's got great grappling, and the grappling is one area of Drew Dober's game that I don't quite trust in this bout. And I think now that they've got their whole team Habib behind Makhachev to become a champion, they're going to be taking him to the ground, because I know he looked a little bit iffy on the feet against Davy Ramos, and he got clipped in the first round and sunk to a knee in that fight by a lead hook off Davy Ramos. I feel like the only reason he didn't take Davy down early is because of that jiu-jitsu. He waited till the 3rd round where he cracked Davy Ramos and he was a little bit more tired and things were a little bit more sweaty before he went to the ground game. And I've just seen Drew Dober taken down too many times, and I think Makhachev is going to work a grappling clinic on him and actually get the submission win here. Olivier Aubin-Mercier was able to manhandle Drew Dober and get a submission win. Beneil Dariush was able to manhandle Drew Dober and get a submission win after a tough first round, don't get me wrong. And so was Efrain Escudero able to get a guillotine choke. I know Leandro Silva, guillotine choke got overturned to a no contest because the referee stepped in before Drew Dober tapped. But that guillotine choke was in, and it was dangerous, and the fact that you're in that position in the first place is almost a loss in general, in all honesty. I know it got overturned to a no contest because he didn't technically tap, but he was still in a deep guillotine on the ground again, and that continues to happen in his career, and I think he will get out grappled here against Islam Makhachev pretty easily, even in the Alexander Hernandez bout. I know Drew Dober looked good in that one and got a TKO in the 2nd round, but he just got taken down a couple of times early by Alexander Hernandez. And Makhachev's just a different level of grappler, and I think unless you have that grappling base and have shown great grappling defense, you're not going to be beating Islam Makhachev. You've got to have solid grappling defense or a great jiu-jitsu game that Makhachev doesn't really want to tangle with, and then be good on the feet afterwards, on top of everything else. Dober's just good on the feet, without the stuff underneath it to support him and keep Makhachev from going for takedowns on him. I think Islam Makhachev goes out there, gets a 30-27, somewhat competitive decision, stays on top, lands more total strikes, wins the fight that way. Actually, no, I will go with submission. I wanted to change my mind, but I think he will get a submission over Drew Dober. There's a real need for Makhachev to perform here. Main card of a pay-per-view. Haven't seen him for a while. He hasn't wowed us yet in his career, I'll be honest with you guys. I think he does go out there and get a submission win over Drew Dober. I'll call it by rear naked choke after he takes the back at one point after Dober tries to get back up after a takedown. Makhachev takes the back, gets the rear naked choke, gets the job done. I will say this though, just to be clear. He's not going to be champion, I don't think. He's very good. I just don't see what I saw from Khabib early in his career. Makhachev is not the same level. I think that's a real delusion in the MMA community. I like Islam Makhachev. DC was calling for him to maybe earn a title shot here with a win over Drew Dober. Shut the fuck up, DC, you biased fuck. You fat bantamweight bitch. I'm sorry. We're going to calm down about DC. Sorry, I'm blinded from rage. What was I talking about? Makhachev. He's okay. He's not, like, fantastic. So this could be close. I'm going to take him by submission, however, from Drew Dober. On the feet, it's going to be risky, though. So it'll be interesting to see. Makhachev has been KO'd before. Cuts a lot of weight to the division. KO'd before by Adriano Martins. I think Makhachev gets the job done by submission, however. Winning the grappling exchanges. Moving on. Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. I am going with Aljamain Sterling. This is another underdog on the card. I like the underdog here, and I honestly feel like, before you get at me about Petr Yan being a savage and no one understands it, I picked Yan by late rounds TKO against Aldo. I picked Yan to win all the fights in his career so far. I just believe that Aljamain Sterling's going to win purely on the difference of the fact that he can shoot takedowns. The other guys aren't going to do against Petr Yan and aren't going to do it to the same level. And I also look at the Jimmy Rivera bouts. Very close in time on Jimmy Rivera's career. This is not that Aljamain took on Rivera when he was 25 and Yan took on Rivera in his prime. Very close between the fights of Jimmy Rivera. I believe it was the fight afterwards that Yan took on Rivera. Sterling really schooled Rivera. He really schooled Rivera. And Yan had trouble, man. He was getting outlanded in those first 2 rounds. Sterling was not getting outlanded by Rivera. Doing good on the feet. Had him against the cage early as well. Was able to control him there. Not really secure any great position on the ground. I just think having that grappling to fall back on and having that human backpack mode that he can initiate on Petr Yan is going to give him enough time in those later rounds to have a bit more of a tired out Yan that's not used to grappling in his career. He's a master of sport in boxing. He's not like known for his grappling the way that Aljamain Sterling is. It's a little bit of an unknown with Yan, where we kind of know the situation with Aljamain Sterling. We also haven't really seen from Petr Yan so far too much one-punch KO power, which is the only way that Marlon Moraes beat Aljamain Sterling, by having that explosivity in the early rounds. Dropped Sterling with a punch. Sterling was good off of his back, almost had an armbar at one point. Marlon Moraes stands back up, ushers Sterling to get back up as well. Lands the knee as Sterling shoots another takedown. If Sterling starts shooting reckless takedowns in this bout and just keeps going for them recklessly, it's going to be a real problem. But I think he'll go for him calculatedly, and I think he'll get Yan against the cage, hold him there for a little bit, and I think it's just going to be a pressure and a pace that Yan is not used to as a striker, and I think Aljamain's going to wear on him a little bit, and then eventually get a submission in the 3rd or 4th round. I think Aljamain gets the job done. I know Yan has shown great takedown defense in his career, but against who? Aldo, Faber. Sterling is the grappler of the bantamweight division. I know that what I said about him and Sandhagen is true. He did cheat against Sandhagen, and no one wants to talk about that. And I made a post about that on his free fight, and it got completely nuked and muted by the UFC, basically. I was first on that video. I posted that clip, and that got nothing. No interactions from anyone. I was first to post a comment, I feel like. One of the first 5, at least. Aljamain Sterling cheated in that fight with Sandhagen. Stuck his toes in the cage, climbed up the cage, took Sandhagen's back because of it. Sandhagen didn't expect him to take his back because he's so tall. He knows he's safe in that position. No one's going to be able to take my back unless they jump on me, in which case I'll shake him off the top because they'll be a little bit too high. Aljo climbed up the cage with his right foot, got the back of Sandhagen, and got the submission because of it. I think he will go out there and use a good grappling game against Yan, and I think he's dangerous on the feet as well because he throws a lot of good kicks. He's very wild on the feet, spinning back fists, head kicks. He just throws a lot of awkward techniques that I think is going to interrupt the need for perfectness from Petr Yan. I think Yan needs perfectness. He needs technical battles with great strikers that he can eventually figure out. Aljo's so difficult to figure out because he's so unpredictable on the feet. He lands good shots, and he's my underdog of the night. In my opinion, I think Aljamain is great value, and I'll tell you this as well. Argue me this. If Yan didn't have a belt, who's the favourite in this bout? If Yan fought Aldo and beat him, but didn't get a belt for it, and it was just the fact that now Yan and Aljo are going to fight for a vacant Bantamweight World Championship, who's the favourite here? It's Aljo. You know that it is. It's Aljo the favourite of this bout. If Yan did not have a belt around his waist and wasn't a defending champion, Aljo style-wise is the favourite in this bout in my opinion. He's bigger than Yan. I mean, I'm not going to... He's kind of a weight bully. He's a giant fucking guy. I know there's a video at 228, maybe the embedded, where Aljo is standing next to Woodley. They're basically the same size. Aljo is a giant man for the bantamweight division. Incredibly strong. Got reach as well. I think he goes out there and just puts volume on Yan. Makes it messy. Makes it sloppy. Yan's going to want it to be perfect. I don't see the one-punch power from Yan that I see from other guys like Marlon Moraes. And I think Sterling's going to be able to make it messy. Crowd Yan against the cage. And whenever Yan tries to throw hard back, Sterling's going to shoot a takedown. Does he get a takedown? I don't know. He might not do. Does he get a great slam in the fight? Maybe not, but just the fact that he has that ability to push Yan against the cage and work that clinch game in general, stomp on the toes a couple of times, channel his inner Usman, who knows? I just think Sterling with that X factor of the grappling is going to be enough in this bout, because I've seen Yan get outstruck by Rivera at some points in that bout, and I know that he was waiting for his moment. There's not that moment against the Funkmaster. He's a little bit random. It's hard to figure him out. I think he gets the job done. He's got great conditioning as well. I think he gets a rear naked choke. Third round, Yan starts to slow down a little bit. Sterling gets a rear naked choke finish. I think Sterling's going to chop at the legs early. Chop at the front kick early as well. Chop at the front kick. Land the front kick early. Chop at the legs early. Eventually wear down Yan. Get him in the second and third when he's backing up a little bit. And then Yan's going to try a little technical get up to get out of a takedown position. Sterling's going to capitalize, take his back, and get a rear naked choke finish in the later rounds. I think he's too big and muscled up for Yan. Moving on up the card, Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. I mean, it's not even really a fight, is it? I mean, she beat nobody. Her last two opponents have a combined amount of wins of 10. It's not a fight. This isn't legacy building. Nunes versus Anderson. I just lost all momentum here on this card. I'm sorry. It's a great fight. Megan Anderson, dangerous. She accidentally toe kicked Kat Zingano in the eye once. So that's her credit to get a championship fight. She lost to the last opponent that Nunes took on, dominantly. Got smashed in the first round, taken down, exposed on the ground, and eventually submitted in that bout as well. Nunes just dominated Felicia Spencer in the grappling department as well, by the way. I know that Felicia Spencer went out there and slammed Megan Anderson to the ground, got the takedown relatively easily, took advantage, got the top control, took the back, got the finish, smashed home some ground and pound shots as well. Nunes just out-grappled Felicia Spencer in their bout, took her to the ground, worked well there. I think Megan Anderson is going to get caught up in the moment. She's a great underdog purely because of the fact that no one in MMA deserves to be that much of an underdog. Look at what just happened with Maya and Shevchenko. It was somewhat competitive. She was like a 16-1 underdog. Shevchenko was like a minus 1,600 favorite. It's ridiculous. I think Nunes is not that good. No, I know Nunes is good. Nunes is good. She's a big girl. She's a slugger, lesbian. I think she's got real good talent. She's a little bit technically unsound here and there, and that's where she does get caught in her fights. Jermaine Durandamy landed a good knee on Amanda Nunes and a good head kick, I believe, at one point as well, and actually had Nunes in a little bit of trouble. But in the past few fights of Nunes, she's shown a willingness and an improvement on her grappling game. Took down Jermaine Durandamy a bunch of times, took down Felicia Spencer a bunch of times, took them both to a decision. I think she's going to go for a little bit of a less risky performance. She's not going to be swinging early against Megan Anderson, and I can just see Megan Anderson looking to time a knee on Amanda Nunes by just getting taken down, because I watched Holly Holm ragdoll Megan Anderson. She's not good. She's kind of hot, you know. Some would say she's a 5 a.m.er. I know we're co-workers and stuff, so I don't really want to get in too much trouble. However, Nunes is going to get the job done, taking her down, out-grappling her. It's food chain stuff. Felicia Spencer, this isn't MMA math, this is MMA algebra, in my opinion, okay? This is A something, B something, C something. This is not some different fights with different styles all being chucked in together and figuring out MMA math. This is the same style and same approach working in the same situation. Spencer's a better grappler than Megan Anderson. Nunes is a better grappler than Spencer. She obviously out-grapples Megan Anderson. Even if you think she's going to wing it and try and land big shots on the feet, her last two bouts she's grappled more than ever, and she never used to grapple before that really ever. So I think Nunes is going to go out there and get the takedowns early and just show a hole in Megan Anderson's game, because the women's featherweight division literally shouldn't even fucking exist. You don't have a rankings, UFC. If you have a division, UFC, please at least don't be so ashamed of that division where you hide the rankings online. Show us the rankings if you think it's a legit division. No? No, hide the rankings. It's a trash division. Her last two opponents are dog shit. Nunes gets the job done out grappling her for 5 rounds to a decision. Maybe there's some good money by decision. I don't even know. But either way, Megan Anderson's a good underdog. Crazy odds. Might get a knee KO in the first round. Who knows? Moving on. Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Here we are. I'm picking Israel Adesanya. I know people call me a hater whenever I pick against him, but I do pick him in some fights as well. So, you know I got torn to shreds for picking Paulo Costa over Israel Adesanya. But, Paulo Costa kind of shit the bed and let me down a little bit. That's all good, though. He just stood there and accepted death. Maybe he knew that death was coming, and he was just accepting the inevitable against Israel Adesanya. Who knows? But I picked Israel Adesanya against Yoel Romero. No problem picking him. I think he's just on a different level striking-wise to Jan Blachowicz. I think the lower divisions in general are on a different level striking-wise to the upper divisions. Jan Blachowicz, I've watched his fights. There's a difference in speed. The power advantage is Jan Blachowicz, but arguably you can't even say that anymore because Israel Adesanya just one-punch dropped Paulo Costa in their fight on the cheek. Before that, finished Robert Whittaker by TKO as well, and Whittaker took big shots off Cannonier all fight long. Adesanya's got some power. It's more of the precision and the timing of Adesanya that's getting him these wins, in my opinion. And I think eventually Jan Blachowicz is going to leave himself exposed and get TKO'd by Israel Adesanya. I'm looking at that 3 to 4 round period here. On the way I think Adesanya's going to win. I think he's going to chop at the legs of Blachowicz early, like Thiago Santos was doing. If you remember that fight with Santos and Blachowicz at UFC Prague not too long ago. Jan Blachowicz was doing okay with Santos, started getting a little bit outstruck on the feet, didn't like being behind on the scorecards, came rushing forward in the 3rd and 4th round, got clipped by Thiago Santos by a check hook as they were moving backwards, eventually getting TKO'd. I think Adesanya does exactly what Santos did, but just to a more clinical and technical level, in all honesty. I think he's going to go out there. Blachowicz is a little bit flat-footed. I know he's got good kicks, but he loads them up a little bit, and at light heavyweight you can get away with that kind of stuff, but middleweight breeds better technique, and it makes you need to be better to get to the top of the middleweight division compared to the light heavyweight division. Jan Blachowicz is also a little bit older. I like Jan Blachowicz. I'm sick of actually picking against him because he always fucking wins. I picked Reyes. I picked Corey Anderson. I don't know what to do about Jan Blachowicz. He keeps winning as an underdog. But I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya getting the job done. 3rd or 4th round TKO. I think in the first 2 rounds, he's leg kicking Jan Blachowicz quite easily. Blachowicz is going to get a little bit frustrated, miss a bunch of punches. Then he's going to come rushing forward in the 3rd or 4th round. And Israel Adesanya is going to be waiting for him to do so and land that counter check hook as Jan Blachowicz comes in, sleeping him in the 3rd or 4th round. Adesanya gets the job done, being the 2-weight world champion, the champ, Israel Adesanya, undefeated guy. This is great for his legacy. 21-0 Israel Adesanya gets the job done. He's got a bit of a reach advantage as well. He's not that big of a guy. I think he's only around 6'3", and Jan Blachowicz is 6'2" and thick and built. If Jan Blachowicz goes out there and grapples, he can win. He won't go out there and grapple, man. I know he says that he will. No one does what they're supposed to do in fights. They just do what they want. They do what they're best at, and what Jan Blachowicz is best at, Israel Adesanya is better than him at. So I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya, chopping at the legs early, doing well to get out of the way of Jan Blachowicz's exchanges, and I think Adesanya is going to catch him rushing in the 3rd or 4th round a little bit frustrated and get the job done by 3rd or 4th round TKO. Like and subscribe, click that button up there. Goodbye. I'll see you later.